Hey, what is up, my fellow addicts? I hope everyone had a wonderful, safe new year. Let's start this top 100 countdown by actually doing one of my favorite parts, but also my least favorite parts, which is the bottom 10. So these golf balls are all golf balls that, well, I can't sugarcoat it. They suck. They're terrible. They're hot garbage. They're hot, flaming, dookie garbage. There's just no way to say it. My followers know, and my longtime watchers and subscribers know that I try to be positive. I try to give, especially when it comes to direct-to-consumer balls, I try to spin things in a positive way and always look at the bright side. I look at a lot of golf balls that it's their first time on the market. I look at it as learning points. Hey, here's what you could do better, yada, yada, yada. These bottom 10, there's none of that. These bottom 10 are awful, and you should not play them. And if you are playing them, you should probably look elsewhere, because we have 90 other golf balls that are above them that are fantastic or good or okay or mediocre or even bad, but they're just not hot, flaming, dookie garbage like these are right here. Now, before we get started, I usually tell you guys, subscribe, like, comment, all that. We have a membership that just starts at $1 a month. If you end up loving this content when we get to the end, you can support the channel for $1 a month. Also, I do want to thank ActiveDim. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they did send me a pair of sunglasses to try out. And I wanted to highlight them because, one, the guy I've been speaking with, very friendly, very nice, loves what he's doing, loves his company. He sent me these ActiveDim sunglasses, and what's really cool about them is they actually, the lenses kind of dim and change depending on how bright it is outside. I was really skeptical when I first put them on. This isn't usually my style. These are actually a little smaller. They come in 3 different sizes, but I actually really enjoy these golfing because they block the sun well, but they're not too dark. I have a lot of other pairs that are just so dark, and I don't like to wear them when I'm golfing. Well, these, because they get brighter and dimmer depending on the light, I actually have been able to keep them on my face while I'm golfing the entire round. So again, I'm not sponsored by them. They just send them for free. I just want to highlight them because I've really enjoyed them so far. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to learn more about them. Sorry, let's get into the bottom 10. Now, I know not a lot of people really want to see the bottom 10, so I'm going to get really animated here. I'm going to get passionate because the reality is some of these golf balls just frankly tick me off. Starting with our worst golf ball, and it's a golf ball that rightfully deserves the bottom spot. It is terrible in every way imaginable, and that is, of course, the Big Crusher golf ball. So, this golf ball, this is hilarious. When I first looked at this golf ball, it was a direct-to-consumer, which we love doing on this channel. I got a little nervous, though, because when I first saw it, they advertised it as a golf ball that is a long-distance golf ball, right? It's for the fast swingers, and it's long, and it's straight, and and it's funny because they advertise that you'll just gain so much explosive distance. The problem with golf balls like that, whether it's the Top Flight Bomb, the Bridgestone E9, Volvic did a model a few years ago, anytime you come out with a golf ball that is a specific long drive model, it just really limits your market. Because think about it, if you can swing the club 115, 120 mile an hour and actually hit it good enough to get it to go straight and hit it 400 yards, 350 yards, whatever you want to say, you're going to be good enough to where you just want to play a Pro V1 or a Callaway or something that you know. Because if you're that good at golf, you're not going to play a 2-piece Iometer Surlyn direct-to-consumer budget ball that no one's heard of. Now, I say budget ball loosely because this golf ball is $36 a dozen, and that's for a 2-piece Surlyn Iometer blend golf ball, which is just ridiculous. But it gets worse from there. So not only did I lose distance with every single club because I couldn't compress it, I don't swing 115, 120 mile an hour, but this is where it gets really interesting, right? So I went onto Big Crusher's website and I looked, and they have a robotic test on there. Now, I learned recently from My Golf Spy that you can go to a robotic test and you can alter the results. You can set it up with launch angle and you can manipulate it enough to make it seem like your golf ball is better, right? The first thing I see on there, and this is on there, you can go look it up, the Big Crusher golf ball doesn't exceed the Pro V1 in distance. There's just a small difference, 259.1 compared to 250.7 and 8.4 yard distance. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Like, you guys have seen this. You've been to websites. You've seen it a million times where you go on these websites and they say, oh, it beat Pro V1 by half a yard or by a yard, or oh, it was only a yard less. That's all fine. 8.4 yards? That's 26 feet. That's the size of a rental van. Like, And they're just, they say it with such confidence and bass in their chest. They're like, hey, listen, our golf ball's a little cheaper and it might not be as long as the Pro V1, but it's within 8.4 yards. Guys, you know as well as I do in driver distance, 8.4 yards might as well be a football field. Like, who wants to be 10 yards behind every single shot with the driver? That's insane. Like, and they just advertise it plain as can be. The game is rigged in their favor and they can't even get it close. But it gets even better. Then you go to launch angle and you can see 10.8, and that's 10.8 launch angle with the driver. That seems really low. Well, it is low because it's even below the tour average. So they're testing this golf ball on a robot probably with 120, 125 mile per hour speed. So I wish they'd have told that, but I mean, are you kidding me? But it gets even better because we're still going. My favorite part of it. So it openly admits that the Pro V1 has about 100 to 150 less RPM with the driver. Now, how do you think it markets that, right? Do you think it says, okay, there's a little more driver spin, but hey, that means you get a little more lift in the air, you can bend it left and right a little more? No, they say it increases greenside control because there's more spin with the driver that allows for more greenside control. This feels like someone made a golf ball who has no idea what golf is. Like, they went to a golf match and they were hitting the ball back and forth across the net and someone leaned over and went, you know this is tennis, right? And they went, oh. This is the equivalent of your buddy that, like, a family member dies, he gets a bunch of money and he says, you know, I think I'm going to open up a restaurant. I want my own business. And you say, oh, okay, yeah, what do you know about cooking? And he goes, oh, I make a mean Kraft mac and cheese. Yeah, bro, just put it in Bitcoin and save us all the trouble. No one wants to go eat your microwave nonsense for $20. Like, everything about the Big Crusher is just, there's nothing good about it. I tried so hard to find something good, and I will say this, your logo's pretty cool. I like how it has the flag and the, the ball and the bee or whatever. That's kind of cool. That's it, and nothing else makes sense. And keep in mind, this is for, I'm sorry for this long rant, none of them else will be this long. But the reality is, when you have a direct-to-consumer golf ball, your best bet is to go after the 98% of the market. What's the 98% of the market? It's average Joes. It's guys who are just hacking it up. They want a nice, soft, explosive, forgiving golf ball that when they hit it, they immediately see that difference. When you already make a direct-to-consumer golf ball, and then you price it at, it's a two-piece iometer Surlyn blend, and you price it at $36 a dozen, you've already taken yourself out of the market. No one cares. And if you look at all the reviews and all the Reddit boards and everything else, everyone says the same thing. I don't know. Why would I spend that much money on a two-piece? I don't know. Who are these guys? No one wants to spend that type of money. No one does. You're going to have to go by word of mouth, which already puts you at a disadvantage. Then on top of that, okay, who's your golf ball for? Oh, you mean 1% of the golfers in the world that can swing that fast? And then you figure, okay, well, 99% of that 1% are like pros, and they're not going to play a two-piece Surlyn ball. So now you have 0.001% of the market. You've screwed yourself. You've completely screwed yourself. The Big Crusher is terrible. I hate it. I hate the feel of it. I hate the performance of it, and it just doesn't make any sense. Look, if you're going to make a direct-to-consumer golf ball, play it safe. Come out with a really forgiving, soft, explosive model. Ryden Ditson, Legato LTX. Those are golf balls that do it right. When I put those golf balls down and I hit them, the first thing that happens is a smile on my face because I go, oh, okay, that was cool. Stop with that. You get some new marketers, get a new product, get a new website, change the name, and maybe it'll work out. Also, as a side note, it is kind of funny. If you go to their website and you actually click, they have a big button that says Score Crusher Now. And you click on it, it just says web page not found. So either they're out of stock or they're going out of business. I don't know, but it's just hilarious. You can't even buy their balls. Number 99, we are looking at the XEXIO 11. Yeah, this one was at the bottom last year too. And the reality is that XEXIO is one of those companies where they're really popular in Japan. They do have some diehards. I don't know how their clubs are. I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you how the 11 is. It's a $49.99, tour, question mark, level ball that really the reality is that it launches so high that it just doesn't make sense. With the 9-iron, my average launch angle is, 21, 22. This one was like 30 to 33. In fact, when I put the golf ball down, the first thing I noticed is when I hit it, it almost looked like I had hit a flop shot. Like I hit it and it just went straight up in the air. I thought it was going to come up and hit me in the face. And I went, what? And I look up and I'm like, and I almost caught it like a pop fly. I was like, because it's just so high, it doesn't make any sense. And because of that, I ended up losing 20 to 30 yards with a 9-iron because it just launches too high. And then from there, it's just a roller coaster. Sometimes it launches really low, sometimes it launches ridiculously high, sometimes it's optimal, sometimes it's consistent, sometimes it's not. It's just a golf ball that is a headache to use, and I can't imagine anybody spending. It's got a cool design, which is kind of neat. I like that. It is soft. It is soft and squishy. It has a great feel, but that's about it. Other than that, there's no performance benefit, and I'm never going to recommend anyone go out and spend $50 on a dozen of golf balls, period. But in addition, now you're telling me, okay, well, it's a $50 dozen golf ball and it's terrible. Well, okay, save your money. There's 100 golf balls, literally, that you could spend money on that would not be that golf ball. So XEO 11, not one of my favorites. Hopefully they come out with a newer model. I'd like to test more XEO. They have more models, but we'll see. That's going to be a 2025 thing. At 98, we are looking at the Kirkland V3, and I love doing this one because it does make some people upset because there are a lot of Kirkland apologists out there, but here's the reality, right? So when the V2 came out, my main issue with the V2 was, okay, it feels decent, it has some numbers that are okay, but it just spins way too much. I mean, you hit it with a wedge and you can hear the spin. It just, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's just way too much. Like, I want the ball to hit the green and kind of stop and rip back a little. I don't want it to hit, rip back, come back down the front of the green, roll through the fairway, and come back up to my feet from 80 yards out. Like, that's a little too much spin. Okay, maybe it doesn't have that much spin, but it's pretty close. Like, it's way too much. And then even when you get into the driver, it was just so much spin that the ball just ended up ballooning in the air. And it wasn't just me. A lot of people had issues with that. So what did Kirkland do? They did the appropriate thing. They rerouted. They took it. They remodeled it. But here's where they made their mistake. They tried to just imitate the Pro V1. They tried really hard to do it, so they firmed it up. They made it you got to understand, Titleist has a really big head in this game. You can't just make another Pro V1. It's just not that way. So what they did was they tried to firm it up, make it as close to Pro V1 as possible, and instead what came out was an abomination. No one liked this golf ball. I know there are apologists out there, and there are, people who are just diehard Kirkland fans. I had people attacking me in the comments, well, what are we supposed to do? It's 25, we can't afford premium golf balls. That's why my channel exists, guys. That's why it exists. It's because you can find so many golf balls that way. But the reality is, here's some numbers from the V3. Not great, lost distance, terrible forgiveness. And what's funny is we lost all that spin, which, okay, yeah, you went the other way. Now we have no spin, but then you get to the driver and you have one of the highest spins I ever have recorded. So again, a lot of inconsistency. And the thing is, you can argue with me, but I'm right, because what did Kirkland do? They rerouted again because the feedback was terrible, and now they're coming out with the 4, and I believe the V4 is actually available in some Costco's right now, but not at mine. When it becomes available, I'll purchase that, but they completely remade it again. And the reality is they wouldn't have remade it again if it was decent. So there it is.
The Greenwood Golf Ball.
Okay, so this one I actually never released a review for. I actually tested it way back in the day. It was sent to me. It was a direct-to-consumer. I won't say too much about it. It wasn't great. I ultimately went back to the gentleman and said, hey, there's a lot wrong with this golf ball. Here it all is. I said, if you don't want me to release the review, I won't, out of niceness, just because, like, hey, I understand you're direct to consumer, you're just like a small business. I don't want to just get on there and trash you. The reality is, though, there was very few things that the golf ball did well. And the ultimate sin, again, not to sound like a broken record, but it just goes back to they created a direct to consumer golf ball. They tried to imitate the Pro V1. And unfortunately, anytime you do that, 99% of the time you're going to fall flat on your face. It's just not the way. Make it for the 98%. So it is what it is. I won't speak on it too much. I don't want to harp on small businesses. Not a good golf ball. Hopefully they remake it. I hope they're not going out of business, but it's tough when your first launch is this bad because it's hard to recover. But I wish them the best. Now this one's always hard because I like Quantix because they were like the first direct-to-consumer golf ball I ever tested on the channel. The golf balls are designed and made by a guy who made Maxfly in the 90s when they were very popular on tour. There's a lot of things that really, if you just look at it on pen and paper, really add up and it looks great. But the problem is that, okay, you have a guy who designed a golf ball in the 90s. Think about how much golf has changed, right? The problem I have with Quantix golf balls is they feel like they were made in the 90s. They're very firm, very clicky, very unforgiving. I think both golf balls require a swing speed, just based on my testing. I would say like 110 to 115 mile an hour. Like, again, it goes back to what I said before. When you try to imitate a ball that's basically made for pros and you're a direct to consumer, you eliminate 98% of the market already. You've got to make something in there that's more softer, forgiving, 70 compression, 75. That way, average Joes like us can have some fun with it. Unfortunately, that's not the case here, and these golf balls are just so tour and pro-like that maybe if you swing really fast, maybe they are great, but I don't know. From an average swing standpoint, I can't hit them. I get frustrated. I lose massive amounts of distance, and ultimately that's what pushes it to the bottom. Price point wise, they are $39 a dozen, which, that's right there with Vice. And anytime you're right there with Vice, that's tough because Vice is more easily accessible. They have better designs, and they absolutely perform top tier. So being in that price point is really difficult. These were sent to me by a viewer. He sent them to me literally because he said they were so bad that he felt he had to do the world a service by sending them to me so that way I could get the word out and let everyone know how bad they are. And he was right, because these are bad. $25 a dozen, 3-piece urethane. Immediately you're thinking, okay, well, yeah, that's a good deal, right? Well, there's a reason for that, all right? If it sounds too good to be true, a lot of the time it is. The reality is these things feel like a rock. They are rock hard solid. There's zero forgiveness. Sometimes you'll hit the golf ball and it'll rattle your hands and you'll be like, oh man, did I mishit it? And you look down and you go, oh no, that was a pure strike. Not a great feeling golf ball, and because of that, again, the forgiveness completely comes down. The loss of distance was incredible. I lost 10, 15 yards per club minimum. Really just not a great golf ball from a bunch of standards. And the other thing about it is nothing with it makes sense. One club launches really high, one club launches really low. Sometimes the accuracy is okay and sometimes it's terrible. There's just too much of this all over the board, and there's so much inconsistency that if I have to spend more than 10 minutes trying to analyze what these numbers are doing and what the golf ball's trying to do and who it's for, it just means it's a bad golf ball, and that's the case here, unfortunately. The Bridgestone E12. Now, I know they have come out with a new model of this. It wasn't on my top to test just because I hate the E12. I hate how it feels. I hate how it sounds. I hate how, E12's argument was always more surface contact. Your ball makes more, okay, well, I need less contact then, because the more I hit this golf ball, I hate how firm it is. I hate how it feels. It launches ridiculously low. Sometimes you just can't tell what it does. You'll hit it, you'll think it's great, and then you watch it kind of just squirrel over to the right. And I know some of you really like it, but the reality is I don't like it. Everyone who I've played with in my immediate group hates it. They think it's the worst golf ball ever made. I'm actually being nice to it. I think there's a few others that are worse, but it's never been that great. The price point, usually it comes out brand new at $35 a dozen, and that's, for a non-urethane golf ball, that's really high. There's just not a lot going for it, unfortunately. And so because of the numbers, because of how bad they were and how inconsistent it was, there's just not a lot there, and the design isn't that great either. So ultimately, you look at the whole piece of the pie and you go, okay, well, what good is there here? And there just isn't a lot. And so even though it's not terrible, it's just very, very, very bad across all the boards. Number 93, we have the LA Golf Ball. So, the LA Golf Ball, it's so funny to me. I know they're getting some recognition for their clubs and their shafts, and they're starting to grow. A lot of people think that they're really innovative the way they make their putters and their shafts. Bryson DeChambeau's a big fan, and that's really cool. And you know what? God bless them. That might be awesome. That might be true. They might be excellent at all that. But reviewing their golf ball, sometimes I can just look at a golf ball before I've even ordered it, and I can tell you, it's going to end up in the bottom 10. And when I saw that it was $69 a dozen, immediately I said, yeah, that golf ball is going in the bottom 10. Because the reality is, I talk about it all the time on this channel. When a golf ball is $45 to $60 a dozen, I have to judge it differently, because when a golf ball is $20 a dozen, I say, okay, my expectations are low. What is it going to do? Is it going to hold up? Is it going to be decent? I don't know. We'll see. But when a golf ball is $45 to $60, I have all kinds of expectations. I'm like, if I'm going to pay this price, it better do everything very well. It better be very accurate. It better be very consistent. All kinds of stuff. Well, what do you do at $69 a dozen? You have a golf ball that's very niche. It's very small, regional, cult following kind of thing. And at $70 a dozen, I mean, what does it have to do? Well, I kind of went into it with an open mind, but it's really hard to do that when after you test it and you get abysmal results. Again, really firm for really fast swing speeds. I imagine that's the case, especially with Bryson on board. I know he's not playing their ball, but still, it just seems like that's the crowd they're going after. It doesn't spin on the 50-yard at all. I lost distance with every club, and it launches really, really high. Like, not exactly Xexio 11 high, but really obtusely high. Just not a lot of great numbers to go around. And again, was the design, the design as far as the logo, LA Golf, that's cool, but the alignment tool's garbage. They don't really offer a lot of different designs and colors. The more I tried to find positives and try to look on the bright side, the more I realized, no, it's just a really expensive golf ball for a very, very, very small niche of people. So if I was LA Golf, I would decrease the price a lot, and I would focus more on that 98%. But hey, that's going to be my advice for everybody pretty much in this bottom 10. At 92, we have the Mizuno RB566. Now this one hurts because I'm a big Mizuno guy. I've always wanted their golf balls to be successful. The X Tour model is one of my favorites of all time. But unfortunately, I have to be honest, I have to be fair, there's just nothing great about the 566 from the average swing point. Now, a lot of you have come forward and told me that from a slow swing point, 60 to 70 mile an hour with the driver, it is decent. That might be the case, but again, I test from more of the 95 to 100 range, used to be 92, mid-90s we'll say, but that's where I test it from, and when you test it that way, massive loss in distance, mediocre across the whole board. Now, the reason it did actually shoot a little higher than some of these other ones is because I do like the design. The dimple pattern's unique. I love the blue. It's different. When I look at it, it puts a smile on my face. That part gives me confidence, but unfortunately, that's all it does, is just give me confidence. But then the second I hit it, the confidence goes whoop all the way to the bottom, because lost 9-iron, 7-iron, driver, everything across the board, one of the lowest numbers I've had. Value-wise, okay, but again, it's not enough to raise it up into the 80s, so unfortunately it does get that bottom 10 nod. At 91, we have the Odin X. Now this one was really funny because when I went in to review the Odin golf balls, they have two models. They have the Odin X1 Pro and they have the Odin X. The Odin X is the three-piece, like Surlyn iometer blend, and then the other one's urethane, and it's hilarious because you can tell who the golden child is and who, the redheaded stepchild is, if you will. It's very obvious from the second you go onto the website, because you go on there and everything is, ping, trusted, X1 beats distance, X1 wins top prize. And I'm like, where's the X? And I'm looking, and then I see a little button down here and it says X1. And I click on it and it's like, oh, $20 a dozen. They've discounted the heck out of it. And I'm like, okay, I know where this is going. The X1 tested great. One of my favorite golf balls of the year, a big surprise. But the X itself, the Odin X, is a big, hot, flaming pile of dookie. It just is. It doesn't spin. It doesn't go far. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't react well around the green. It just does everything so mediocre. The only thing that really got it this far was the value score, because at $20 a dozen or $22 a dozen, for a three-piece, that's actually a really good value. And so because of that, it did get it a little higher than some of those other golf balls. But if that price point was, let's say, $30 a dozen, this would be like 97, 98, 99. It's just not good. But you know what? I'll give Odin a pass. You made two golf balls. They're relatively new. They're a newer company. and they're small business, of course, but you have 2 golf balls. One's amazing, so you put all your energy into that. You take the other one, kind of scoot it to the side and go, okay, we made a mistake, but then just rebuild on it. Making a mistake's not a big deal. So it's not the making of the mistake that will get you, it's doubling down on it. That's when people get in trouble. It's one of my favorite phrases of all time I've heard, is that it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. It's when you make a mistake and then you double down on it and then you triple down on it and you keep saying, well, no, it'll work, it'll work. Sometimes you just got to be able to push that aside and say, okay, we tried, we failed, let's bring another one in, but let's keep pumping this, X1 model. So I hope they do that. But yeah, the X model is no bueno. They're no longer up for sale, and I hope it stays that way. At number 90, we have the Penson golf ball. And again, there's not a lot I can say about this. They do offer a free trial, which is nice, but everything about this golf ball really screams low budget. You go to the website, it looks like it was made on Microsoft Paint. No offense, Penson, I know you're a small business. I don't want to harp on you too much. I know you're just trying to get your name out there. But the reality is, again, it tries to imitate the Pro V1. Everything about it, just, you go to the website and it's, save money on Pro V1, don't play Pro V. I wish direct consumers understood this, that when you make a golf ball, you just can't try to imitate the Pro V1. The idea, I said this before, the idea is not to imitate the Pro V1 and say that you're like it. It's to convince your market that they don't need it. That's what we've done on Golf Ball Addict, is we've convinced 15,000 people, however many subscribers I have, almost 16,000, that it's not that you need a ball like the Pro V1 that's less money. You need a ball that is more for you, more for your game. And that could be the Pro V1 for some. But there's a lot of golf balls on the market and you might be suited for a lot of different ones. And that's what you got to push is, hey, we're $30 a dozen. We actually are for a normal average swing speed. We offer forgiveness, all this other stuff. And if you advertise that, it would probably do a lot better. But when you pump all your money into imitate the Pro V1 the best you can, make it exactly like it, you always fall flat on your face every single time. It's just the way it is. That is our bottom 10 golf balls. The reality is I tried to make that a little funner by being more energetic and getting into that, but I know it's difficult. The reality is these 10 golf balls, there's not a lot of nice things to say about them. Now we are getting into the 80s and then we'll get into the 70s. Now the good news is once we get into the 80s and 70s, those golf balls are more of just okay, or maybe some of them are bad in the high 80s, but then it just gets into okay. And once we get into like the 60s, those are golf balls that I would recommend to some people. So it's not going to be terrible forever. I highly encourage you to stick around and go through this and see. It's a great list. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to throw some other fun stuff in there too. I will see you soon in a couple days for 89 through 80. Have a wonderful day.